All team, give it everything you got.
It's time to fangirl flail with Fangirls Going Rogue.
Count me in.
I don't think there's anything more important in the Star Wars universe than the fans.
News, discussion, and commentary from the female point of view.
You call this a diplomatic solution?
No, I call it aggressive negotiations.
With your hosts, Teresa Delgado, Tricia Barr, and Sarah Woloski.
Boy, am I glad to hear your voice.
Strap in, because this is where the fun begins.
I like the sound of that.
Welcome to episode 41 of Fangirls Going Rogue. I am Tricia Barr from Fangirl Blog, and with me is my co-host, Sarah Woloski.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Star Wars fans. I am excited to be here with you, Tricia, and we have a title.
Is that like the craziest thing? It was like, oh my gosh, we have a title. And now we have to know how to spell The Last Jedi.
But I think that one's pretty easy to spell. What do you think?
Yeah, it's the spelling. Now we have the TLJs that we have to remember.
Yeah, so TFA, TLJ. That's a little confusing.
TLJ. And also a lot of us called Jedi, Return of the Jedi, Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're right.
What do we call this one? Last
Jedi, it'll probably end up being. Oh, when we see Last Jedi, like Force Awakens, we don't say The Force Awakens. We say
True.
TFA or Force Awakens. So I think we'll be calling this Last Jedi.
Or 8.
Because TLJ just doesn't roll off the tongue.
It sounds like a condition you need chiropractor for.
It's true. It's true.
I do like it, though. And it's also a sentence. The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi.
Yes. Yes, it is. When I believe it was Dennis Keithley on Twitter, I saw say that first. I know it was all over Twitter, but he's the person I happened to see say it first. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. You're so smart.
So what's the last part of the sentence?
That is the question. And it has to begin with a verb, which is weird.
Yeah.
Or does it?
It could. I mean, it's all active.
Right.
We have the Force Awakens and the Last Jedi. So what are they doing?
Exactly.
And it probably won't end the sentence, but it would be really cool if they could.
It would be. I think after Twitter went wild, I think that's going to be a condition of the third of episode 9, the title.
So did you see the Josh Gad videos when he talked to Daisy Ridley on Twitter?
I am so proud of Josh Gad because he has an opportunity in front of him that Daisy Ridley, he's doing, what is it? The China train? What is it?
The Orient Express.
Thank you. A remake of the Orient Express, and Daisy happens to be on set with him. He has access to Daisy, he has access to social media, and he decided, let's combine these two and try to get some thoughts out of Daisy Ridley. So yes, I've seen them, and I think they're absolutely hilarious.
Had an important question to ask you, and I'm so sorry. I meant to call you last night, and it's about today's scene.
Yeah.
Who are the Last Jedi?
We're not doing this, Josh.
No. Like, because is it one or is it more than one? Because I need it in order to figure out what we're doing on the train today.
I can't ask you about
So
Frozen
is
2.
it plural?
This is not what I need to start my day.
Okay.
I can't tell you. So
Okay.
I'm going to leave and we'll reconvene when you're kind of done.
Okay.
Well, first, I wasn't sure if she was really annoyed at him for summoning her to his trailer to supposedly go over scenes and then grill her on Jedi stuff.
Right.
But I think she's a very talented actress. That's why she got the part. So she's very good at making that face. She could refuse to go back. And that he enlisted Judy Dench in there. I mean, and she's asking about Reylo.
Josh, I'm not answering any of your Star Wars questions.
No, Daisy, you're not. You're answering her Star Wars questions.
You've been tested for midichlorians. Is Snoke Palpatine? Are you the Last Jedi? What's the deal with Reylo? Why don't you answer my damn questions?
Oh my goodness.
It's like she's talking to James Bond.
Yes.
When she's getting that all, I'm telling you this, and this is what you're going to do.
Yes, I agree. She has such authority. And that one has by far the most views.
It's a subtle way to do some marketing. You're not marketing. It's more like what you see now where people are influencers. And obviously Josh Gad has got the Beauty and the Beast coming out, and he has a lot of other things that he's been in, and he's affiliated with Disney in some way. So you could just get it out there in the consciousness to bring back, we've had Rogue One's winding down, and this is an overt selling. It's just like, oh, don't forget about this movie that comes next year.
Right.
Or this year.
I was going to say, I was like, wait, did we miss a year?
Well, my brain's still in 2016. It's like when you write your checks for the first month and you're like, darn, I put the wrong year on it. So,
yeah, I keep on doing that.
I have a sticker on my checkbook.
Oh, wow. Well, we should say, I know Tricia Delgado, she is usually with us today, or on these episodes, obviously. But this week, unfortunately, she could not make it. So everyone send prayers to her family. And, but we thought we would definitely put in one of her favorite segments, which is Collecting Corner.
And this is just kind of a natural because we've been fans of her universe since the beginning of Fangirls Going Rogue. She essentially brought us all together with Fangirl of the Day for the year of the Fangirl that has kept going.
Yeah,
and
this podcast would not exist without that, I don't think.
It is true. She is part of it. So they're relaunched their site. She did a Q&A. They're going to have our universe stuff for men even. I know guys have been asking for stuff, and she's not going to do shirts. Unless it's Ahsoka, right?
Yes.
Unless it's Ahsoka. But she wants to do fashion stuff. So I think the guys should be really excited too. But we're all kind of excited that, she's back and running, and we'll see more things. And it sounds like it'll be an exciting year with like the Naboo outfits. That was my favorite.
Oh, really? Okay. I like the Naboo. I'm trying to think of what... You know what? I really love the outfit she wore on the Disney cruise, or the pullover. It was like this Rey distressed hoodie. Did you see a picture of that?
Yes, I did.
It's like light. It's like white almost, but it has like cutout shoulders because cutouts are the thing. And it looks really cool. And I believe that our universe, I believe in her Facebook Live, she mentioned that they were going to do perhaps some jackets.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely more, not shirts. It'll be stuff for fashion. So the jacket seems to be kind of an obvious way that will be. And it seems to be the guys kind of like that because you can, especially when they're subtle. And so, I'm just so excited that it's back and running and everything's up to date. So, and one of the other things you found gets me really excited for Celebration.
Yes, it does. So, okay, Richard's birthday, my husband, it's January 16th. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. It's January 16th, which is right after Christmas. So immediately after Christmas, I have to be thinking, okay, what can I get for Richard? And this year, they have all those lovely after Christmas sales and emails. And the Disney store sent me an email with 25% off, all kinds of things. So I happened to go on there, and I had just been to the actual Disney store where, they're in the malls, and you go and you look at all these adorably cute clothing that you can't wear, right?
Of course, you can't wear any of it.
especially the pajamas. All right. So I saw these cute little BB-8 pajamas for like an 8-year-old. And I'm like, why can I not fit in these? So when I get this email in my inbox, I click on it, and just on a whim, I search adult clothing, Star Wars. What pops up? BB-8 pajamas for adults. Oh my gosh, I was so excited. And there was also Chewbacca pajamas for adults. So guess what went in my cart?
Yeah, pajamas. So you guys, not only do you wear Star Wars during the day, you wear it to bed.
Yes. So every night is a slumber party pajama night for us. Star Wars pajama party. So Richard is Chewbacca in his awesome Chewie PJs, and I am little BB-8, and I love them.
And for people who are just joining us, our first podcast stage at Celebration in Anaheim, the first time we ever got to do that, we had a pajama party. So,
yes, we did, complete with stuffed animals.
Yes, and Ewoks and everything, which we had to ward the little children off because they were like, oh, those stuffed animals for us? We're like, no, they're all ours.
Yeah, right? They wanted to take them home. It's like, these are not giveaways. Oh, my.
And I remember we got to give away a stuffed Ewok at that. That had come straight from Disneyland. And I think there's some Disney World news out now.
Oh, look at that seg. I love it. There is some news. We now have a date for Star Wars Land, and it's 2019 for both parks. So both Disneyland in California and Walt Disney World in Florida, a scheduled influx date of 2019. So I guess it's going to be that year. We don't know if it's going to be early in the year or late in the year. But what do you think? Do you think they'll both open at the same time?
No.
Me either.
I think they'll be apart, and it probably depends a lot on how, they really have to see where they get with it as far as getting it open.
Right.
And they certainly are hustling, but no, I don't think they'll be at the same time because they actually want everybody to cover it. So
yeah, that's the thing. Like the people who would have to be there to open it are probably the same people.
Yeah.
Both coverage and just the people involved in, the higher ups who are going to be there.
But it almost feels like when we knew that the episode 7 was coming, we knew it was coming a really long way away, but at least we know it's coming now.
Yeah. That's true. So we have that ballpark date. I know we were hoping for late 2018, but I guess we'll have to wait a little bit longer, probably thanks to the rain here in Southern California. But, that's okay. We want good rides, right?
Yeah, it's been raining enough. I've heard that it's been limiting construction out there, at least at Disneyland, because it's not raining here in Florida, so they don't have to worry about that here.
Okay. Yeah, right now it seems to be like usually it's the rainy season now, and it hasn't been the rainy season for like 2 years in a row, but finally the rain decided, oh, I haven't come here in 2 years. I'm going to visit. And so it's plopped itself down and said, let's rain. And actually it's really good for us because we really need the rain, but it I believe because it's a bunch, like there is concrete poured. I mean, you've seen it as well.
Yep.
But there is a lot of dirt that's being molded into shapes and things, and I'm sure that's wreaked havoc with that part.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Did you see, I think we talked about this just behind the scenes, but the Forbes article by Scott Mendelson about the power of women at the box office, highlighted by Hidden Figures, which we got to do a chat on Fangirl Chat with Tricia and Sandra and myself. But I mean, looking back at it, I didn't realize Enchanted was that big of a Disney movie, but apparently it helped pave the way for some live action Disney that we saw.
Yeah, it definitely did. And I want to give a background on Scott Mendelson himself. I've ever since The Force Awakens came out and, it did gangbusters at the box office. Every day, Scott Mendelson, who covers the film industry for Forbes, he wrote an article about the box office. And so I just started following him, and he just writes amazing things. And I love his take. Like, it's very, you can tell he's a Star Wars fan, but he's very, a numbers guy. So I'm not necessarily a numbers person, but I like seeing the whole box office thing. I'm kind of like Teresa in that way, to follow the box office. So, and while he did follow Rogue One as well, until it stopped doing, as much gangbusters as it has been. But so he always writes these interesting articles, and this one just caught my eye. The Hidden Figures is more proof that films about women are not and never were box office poison. Yeah, so he goes into the history from like 2007 to now about how films that are driven by females have, are kind of proof that they're not box office poison, basically.
Oh, yeah. And when people talk about Star Wars taking a brave leap with the female leads in The Force Awakens and Rogue One, I don't think that Disney felt that was a risk at all. And they're very numbers driven. If you go to the parks, they're always asking questions. They're always driving for data. They love those magic bands in Florida, so they can figure out everything you do. So they do know what consumers are going to, and there's plenty of proof that women-led movies were doing very well. Scott Mendelsohn, he writes great articles. I read him all the time. He actually wrote an article about the female director topic that has come up, saying really there's no reason. And he wrote a really good, just like, you need to just do it kind of thing. And just so, he's on top of the film industry. I like that he sees the numbers, he sees things holistically, and he also is a fan. So, you're not just getting, sometimes with film, you get people who are just really into film and they don't necessarily understand what the average person is looking for, but he has to know that, right? Because he's predicting. Wasn't he the one who said he had no idea what Rogue One was going to do? He wrote all these things like, I have no idea, because there's no precedent.
Right. He projected it. He said, that it could do either really gangbuster, like best case scenario, or this is the worst case, or this is he predicted all these things, and it ended up being the best case scenario is what happened. But yeah, it's interesting. I just love following him. And to cap off this article that he wrote about female films are not box office poison, he wrote something that really actually resonated with me, and it's this. The male-driven hits are often seen as something that can be duplicated and replicated, while the female-driven hits are often seen as flukes. And the male-driven flops mean little in the bigger picture, while high-profile female-driven flops can have wide-reaching consequences. So think Ghostbusters.
Or Supergirl was, and the Catwoman movie were kind of, they said, well, you can't do girls in the but they were just bad movies. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they were just bad movies, but nobody says, oh, Green Lantern was bad, so we can't. They're actually going to do another Green Lantern, supposedly. So it didn't even stop them. Oh, my gosh.
Are you serious?
So the notion that sometimes that they say, oh, this didn't work or that did work, just, it also goes down to when people talk about who's making the movies, because you'll tend to be more forgiving of something you would like to see if it doesn't do well. So that's and that's when he talked about, when he was talking about the directors, that there are a lot of women who have done just as well as, say, a Rian Johnson or a Gareth Edwards as directors, but they're not getting the shot to move up. Because when they talked about Gareth Edwards, in the Art of Rogue One, they hired him not because of Godzilla. That wasn't even out. They weren't even sure what the response was going to be. That they had hired him for his indie movie Monster. And even Rian Johnson he did have a big sci-fi movie with Looper, but it was more of his, that still wasn't considered like the next step. So, they're taking chances on the men. So this is essentially, the numbers are it's like something you can't deny anymore. And Scott Mendelsohn always talks about that. So I like that he goes out there and kind of puts the numbers to it. And Rogue One has apparently put the numbers to the domestic top 10 list now too. So
that's right. Yeah. I'll be interested to see what he has to say about Wonder Woman and how good, or if Wonder Woman does well. I'm excited about that. But you are right. So let's go over the Rogue One box office for Tricia. So as of today, which is February 9th, right? Yes. February 9th, Rogue One has made over $525 million domestically, and that puts it in the 7th highest spot of all time, which is awesome. Now, what I find fun is that out of the top 10 domestic films, 4 of them are part of the Star Wars franchise. Can you believe that?
Doesn't shock me, actually.
Okay. And I hope that changes again with episode 8. Or, I'm sorry, The Last Jedi.
The thing is, one of the things that drives these movies up to these amazingly high numbers is repeat viewings.
Yes. How many times have you seen it?
Do we stop counting? We don't want to admit. Yeah.
Well, I've seen it 5. Right, Richard? 5 times. Yes.
She's got the check back there.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm at that number too, and I've seen Titanic more times. So I was one of the women that helped drive that. People are like, I don't know how that movie made that much money because women went. There are women I know that went to see it 20 times in the theater.
Holy buckets! I saw 4, so I actually. But wow.
So this is one of the things. The movies that get people to go back. Rogue One is so stunningly beautiful that, I believe like the first time you just can't absorb it all. So you're going to get 2 viewings out of most Star Wars fans. And that's typically what I've seen. There's some people who are like, no, I haven't gone back. But I know so many people who've gone to Rogue One numerous times.
Oh yeah. I know one of our Skywalkers has seen it 16 times. It's like, wow.
Wow.
I know. It's like crazy.
Wow. Well, but that's really, that's one of the ways that you get people back in the theater to have the experience, to see it again. And obviously we'll get to see it on the small screen, and that'll be fun. I would love to see it in the theater up against A New Hope. That would be cool.
That would be amazing. And, we should go over the worldwide numbers for Rogue One, and that it sits at the 21st spot of all time with $1,042 million. So it has made over $1 billion. I think it's slowly petering out of theaters at this point, but that's a very healthy box office there. I think even Scott Mendelsohn would agree.
Yeah, that's definitely healthy. I'm sure they were hoping for somewhere near $1 billion, but I'm not sure that they expected to go over that.
Right. I would think
with this movie.
Too.
So, they're dancing around. And we will see Rogue One's Felicity Jones at Celebration.
Yay!
We had an announcement. Now, there was a lot of enthusiasm for the announcement, and then people realized what the announcement actually said.
Oh.
Which was, and I have it. So
okay, read it to us.
Yes, Felicity Jones leads a galaxy of talent scheduled to appear at Star Wars Celebration Autograph Hall this April.
Oh.
Yes.
So just the autograph hall?
There's no announcement that she's now it might be a little early, but perhaps they wanted to get the autograph people. But there was a lot of people who were excited, and then they realized that it was about the autograph hall, and it's a really exorbitant price to get her autograph.
Isn't it like $250?
I believe it's more than that.
What? Whoa.
Yeah. So you're going to have to empty at this point, there's nothing confirmed that she's going to be on a stage. I hope if they send her out there, we get to hear her talk about Rogue One. And, one of the things too is if anybody from Lucasfilm is listening, is having been to all the press stuff with her when she was there, doing it with all her co-stars, is she is an amazing actress, an amazing woman, but she definitely was outshone by her fellow star. So I'd love to get her a chance to just talk, because Alan Tudyk's funny and Diego Luna's awesome, all of them, but she really didn't get to talk a lot. So I would love for them to put her on a stage with some quiet time with just Felicity Jones talking to somebody. Just saying, Warwick Davis, hear us now.
I think that would be amazing. And when I saw, honestly, I didn't really read the email. I just saw the picture. I was like, woohoo, Felicity Jones. And I automatically assumed she would have her own, segment, just like they have Mark Hamill, any one of those. So I'm hoping, crossing fingers.
Definitely. But this was definitely an announcement about the autograph hall and not so much about her being on a stage. So this will be Jeremy Bulloch and Ian McDiarmid.
Now, will they be in the autograph hall, or will they be on the stage?
That was that. They were a part of that announcement as well, not about being on stage. I think though Ian and Jeremy will be on stage in some way.
Yeah.
I think we should just throw ourselves out there. If they want Fangirls Going Rogue to interview Felicity Jones on stage, we would do that.
I think we would. I think we'd do that. I think we'd have some interesting take on that.
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
So, and in addition to getting The Last Jedi, we also know that they have started filming, and The Last Jedi was filmed as Space Bear, if people do or don't know that. That was the title of the movie, the production.
It was filmed as what?
Space Bear.
Space Bear?
Yeah, that was the name of the movie, the production company. They give them a name. So The the Han Solo movie is appropriately called Red Cup.
I love
if
that.
You country music fans
Yes.
know what they're talking about. Solo Cup. So
Red Solo Cup, I fill you up. Let's have a party.
I love that.
and we also they're and so they've started filming. I hear mixed reactions. I actually talked to somebody who's like, I'm really excited for it, and then other people are like, I don't know if I want to see this or not. So we'll see how it goes. But we do know there's another actress that's going to be involved that came out on Entertainment Weekly. The actress is from Fleabag. Her name is Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Fleabag? What is this?
It's an Amazon show. Yeah, it's an Amazon show.
Wow. Amazon has so many series. It's crazy. Okay. And looks like she's a single British woman on that show who is barely holding her life together. And so is this announced, or is she just close to signing on for a role in the young Han Solo film?
Well, they haven't denied it, and she hasn't denied it. So, generally those guys don't put that stuff out if they're not pretty confident. So we'll go with, they talked about
90%.
Yeah, Lupita was out there way before they announced it publicly. Well, obviously her name was out there before the cast photo, but they didn't include her in the cast photo. So, sounds like she's likely in it. And they're filming, so they better sign someone quickly.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay. Well, it'd be interesting to hear her story if it's that fast.
So if there were a Ahsoka Tano movie, apparently Rosario Dawson has volunteered to play her.
What? All right. This came out in Twitter, didn't it?
Yes, it did. And that's the thing. Screen Rant did an article. It's like, oh, she volunteered, but it was actually somebody else offering up that they would love her to play the character. And she tweeted back with that, not that she would like to also, but with the hashtag Ahsoka Lives. So, I mean, come on. She must be a fan.
That's awesome. And honestly, her face shape really would work for that. But I'm like, oh, but what about Ashley?
I know, right?
I think if they ever do like a live action Ahsoka, they need to offer it to Ashley first. That's just my opinion.
It's hard. It's hard. She's so attached to it. For some of us, that's all we know. But then the crazy thing is, we're talking about Ahsoka, and she started in the Clone Wars, and Matt Clifton pointed out in our Facebook discussion group, which, oh my gosh, people are crazy awesome. We love it. It's so much fun to talk to people. And that the Clone Wars is leaving Netflix on March 7th. I know.
No, bad. It's been so easy to just turn on Clone Wars, click.
I know. It is. I watch it all the time. So apparently people are trying to rush and catch up because some people haven't watched it yet.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it looks like, so Kristen Baver, she in our Facebook group, she asked for some recommendations of some Clone Wars arcs to watch. So what would be like your top choice or choices?
We've done some live tweets, so you can definitely go to Fangirls Going Rogue and check our live tweets, what we've done. Sandra's run some great ones. So Umbara is one of them. We also did the Mortis arc. Those are season 3. And season 3 is the best season, I think, of all of it. There's the Wookiee arc if you like Chewbacca. It really depends on, like, if you like Asajj and the Night Sisters in season 4, anything with Darth Maul in it.
The Night Sisters are amazing.
Yeah. And then there's if you like Obi-Wan, there's the Bounty Hunter arc with him when he goes off and poses as a bounty hunter. That's a good one too. And the end of season 5, you have to watch.
Yes, because that is very Ahsoka centric. And you have to watch that episode and then watch the Star Wars Rebels season 2 finale episode right after that. And then also, we have younglings finding their kyber crystals, which really has resonance with Rogue One and kyber crystals, and also the book Catalyst as well, and Ahsoka, the Ahsoka novel as well. So yes. Everything's all connected with Star Wars. I mean, really. And then, of course, there's the whole Obi-Wan and Satine little shipping going on in the Mandalore arcs. So,
Yeah, I mean, you could. My recommendation would season 1, season 2 can be are the the slowest and the most disjointed. They started finding themselves in season 3. I think that one's important to understanding Force. And then the Lost missions are really cool, but anything with the droids in the title you can skip.
Yes, I will wholeheartedly second that one. I'm sorry, Steve Stanton.
Yeah, anything with the droids, just go right on over. You'll be okay, and you can go back and see him later on someday. But
you know what?
I also saw that from Star Wars Rebels, David Oyelowo, Agent Kallus, has been out doing some press for his new movie, United Kingdom. Ooh. And despite him playing some pretty awesome, amazing characters, some really notable, famous real life human beings that he's played on the screen, his kids just like the fact that he's in Star Wars anything.
Well, of course. He's got some smart kids.
I'm glad they have their priorities.
Yeah.
So, and he actually calls him, he gets brownie points from it. But they asked if he would play the character if he could in live action, going back to that. And he's so funny. He goes,
Agent Kallus, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
He said, Agent Kallus is a white dude with red hair and giant mutton chops. So I like to think I'm a good actor, but that may be a stretch. But you never know. I could have Afro mutton chops.
Oh my gosh. That are dyed red.
That are dyed red. So I actually would go for that. This is on his Reddit AMA, Ask Me Anything. So I just saw this and I thought, oh my gosh, he's hysterical.
Wow. Okay. So I love that. So Agent Kallus, of course, is in Star Wars Rebels, and we love David Oyelowo there. But I think this last episode of Star Wars Rebels, Trials of the Darksaber, has really just knocked everyone out. Like, everyone was talking about it, and it's an amazing episode. But we want to focus this time on some of the music and the storytelling of this episode, since both Tricia and I are on to talk about it. So, Tricia, shall we dive in?
I think we should.
So, Legend of the Darksaber, of course, is Sabine. She must train with the Darksaber and decide whether or not to wield it to lead her family. And we should also note that there will be spoilers in this episode. So if you have not seen Trials of the Darksaber, please turn back now. Okay, so let's see. When I first started watching it, I rewatched it again today. And one of the parts that really knocked my socks off when I saw it at first was when they were talking about the legend of the Darksaber. So Fen Rao begins this Legend of the Darksaber tale, and we get some beautiful animation on the wall that totally reminds me of Harry Potter. Hey, Tricia, have you seen Harry Potter yet?
That what? What?
Remind Teresa and I to slap your wrists when we see you next. Okay, well, in this moment where he's telling the Legend of the Darksaber, the music underneath, you hear a human chorus coming in.
This was one of a kind. Legend tells that it was created over 1,000 years ago by Tar Vizsla, the first Mandalorian ever inducted into the Jedi Order. After his passing, the Jedi kept the saber in their temple. That was until members of House Vizsla snuck in and liberated it.
I love this because if you think about it, human voices themselves, they're the earliest form of music. I mean, you go back to Gregorian chant used in Europe for early Christian worship and everything, and the history of the Darksaber is very ancient as well. So I love that Kevin Kiner chose to use that parallel, and then just using human chanting and human chorus also kind of lends that epic feel to the storytelling, kind of similar to in Return of the Jedi. I always go back to this scene, but when Luke is fighting Darth Vader.
It was really cool too, just to hear that this Darksaber goes back to actually a Mandalorian who became a Jedi. He was the first Mandalorian to become a Jedi. So their histories are interwoven and they're not inseparable, which if you were to look at the Jedi and Sith, we think of them that way too. And we often get very binary in our thinking of Star Wars because, the good versus evil, black versus white, or however you want to see it. But there's typically in storytelling a trilogy. And so the Mandalorians are kind of, they're warriors, but we see pacifists and Satine. So we kind of see this interesting balance coming in with the way they're getting woven together. And you can even see it in music.
Yeah, in fact, you mentioned here there's Asian influences in the music. So not only do we have your normal music from the orchestra, but you have Asian instruments thrown in there too. So I like that. And then, as usual, like if you think about it, Princess Leia's theme, that begins with a flute, right? And you have Rey's theme, that begins with a flute. Well, Sabine's theme is introduced here in the opening scene with a low flute as well. So it seems like the females of Star Wars, not only are they brown-haired, or in Sabine's case, I guess, different color-haired, but not only are they brown-haired and brown-eyed, but they have flutes to introduce them.
Flutes always do it first.
I guess so. But then the horn takes up the theme,
say
okay?
That the French horns bring in the dramatic flourish, the heroic vibe.
It's true. Okay. As long as we can agree on that. No. All right.
I do have some band cred, just not as good as yours.
No, that's okay. No, I love it. Well, okay. Go ahead.
I just love that you can pick up all this stuff. Like I didn't even pick up that there were the human voices. I guess it just kind of, it just flows over you. But the drums bring me back to when you go to like Japan at Epcot and they have the drum performers out there when they're doing the training, just kind of, that rhythm and the beat that you see from that Japan pavilion, because I haven't been lucky enough to go there, but if you were to experience the world, that's one place you can do it. It's at Epcot.
That's a great idea. Yeah. So we're skipping ahead now to Sabine and her training. And while she's training, we hear all these awesome drums. And you're right. There's like some Asian drums in there. What do you think all those drums are for while Sabine is training? Like, what are they depicting?
Well, they're very martial in a way, and they almost feel disorganized at the beginning when she starts. There's, the rhythm feels a little chaotic. It doesn't feel, but it gets, as it moves along, you feel kind of, because, for the military in the martial sense, the drums were there to march people as fast as they physically could from one position to another. So that's where you get the kind of the war relation to it. So here she is training, and it's getting more rhythmical and more organized, almost in that kind of martial way. And, if we think about Star Wars music, there's some famous marches, and John Williams has done a lot of famous marches in his own music.
Nice. I love it. Oh my goodness. All right. And then towards the end of her training, we hear Sabine's theme, and we'll play a little of it here. Well, okay, so what do you think of Sabine's theme?
It feels very tragic.
I definitely agree with you. It's like drooping almost, because you have like one note that goes up, la la, and then da da. It's like, and then it just delves into the depths. It's like, oh, it's so sad.
Yes, it's a very sad piece of music.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, the way Kevin Kiner uses it in that last scene, it's repeating. It repeats over and over and over again. And to me, what that is telling us is that Sabine is trapped. She's trapped by her family history. She's trapped. She doesn't know what to do. And it's just this tragic history that's just, keeping her down. And she needs to rise above it, but she can't yet. So I'm interested to see if she'll actually rise above it and what that theme will do, or if it will change if she's, faced her trials.
This is like this huge moment for her where she doesn't have a lot of time to they just need her to step up and do this. And it's like, we need to step up and do this and face your family. That, we get this big revelation of what has happened and the loneliness that they abandoned her. And she still needs to be the hero that they need. They're stuck in a prison. We hear a lot of talk about prisons of your own making. So, that, I don't know. I was a slobbering, blubbering mess when this episode was over. So tissues were used.
Yeah. I also found it interesting that when she was, that theme was repeating when she was telling her story, her history, and then Fen Rao was telling her, I believe in you, you can do this. The music actually changed keys to a higher key at that point, but then it went back to her theme after. So it's like she had a little glimmer of hope there, but then had to, revert to back to that trapped feeling. So I hope she can get out of that. And I also find it interesting that Ezra's theme is very similar to Sabine's theme. Sabine's theme is 4 notes. Ezra's theme is 5 notes. But Ezra's theme also does the same. It goes up a little bit and then just descends down. So both kind of have that sad, drooping quality to their themes, which is just so opposite of Luke's theme and, our familiar octave jump at the very opening of Star Wars. So I think Star Wars Rebels is, honestly, I think it's heading for tragedy. I hate to say it.
That's hopeful. There was a lot of force. There was a lot of force elements too, though, in all the music. Like when she actually took the Darksaber, when they asked her to take it, I felt very familiar to back when Luke decides he's going to follow the path of the Jedi. That kind of, the way the music is. And there's, a lot of things. There were even moments where I felt like there were influences of Rey's theme, not in so much the music, the notes itself, but in the instruments they were using and the way they set it up, that kind of isolation. We know that Luke was very isolated. We know that Rey is very isolated. Sabine is very isolated, but they have these families around them, but they're still going to end up having to be somebody who's going to make decisions on their own. Mm-hmm. So,
where did you find Rey's, notes of Rey's theme? Like what was happening in the episode?
Well, it's more the instrument. When you could hear, it sounded like a stringed instrument, similar to what was the name? Oh, what's the name of that that they use for Rey's theme when she slides?
Yeah, the bells.
The little stringed piano type thing is what I call it. Yeah, it's in there. Yeah, but not as light. It's more of that kind of when Rey's theme gets more lonely. She has some very upbeat moments, Rey's theme, and some very kind of isolated music. So, it's just reminiscent, not so much straight out of it, but it felt very much like that. Where it's like, because the music is a lot of times supposed to make you think of emotional cues. Mm-hmm. So it made me go back to that isolation of Rey. I actually more of like the music when she's by herself in the home, in her little home, in her little at home. Yeah.
Yes.
That music.
Oh,
because everybody wants to at home.
I do. I think that would be cool.
Of all, I have to say, because we have talked a lot about Sabine, because we put a lot of hopes on her, because she was a warrior and an important character, and she wore pink and she wore armor, and I feel like they finally delivered on it, and it also made sense why over time Sabine hasn't stepped up. Because a lot of times I'm like, why doesn't she just take charge with Ezra? Why doesn't she knows better than Ezra. Why doesn't she take charge? Okay, they paid it off. So that's a really awesome thing. It means that they were thinking about it and they were making this work. And we saw, what was it, when you guys went to the season 2, it was the conference, and they had, yes. And Dave Filoni said we were going to see Hera and Sabine in more important roles. And he was probably working on this stuff and he paid it off. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Dave Filoni.
Now, why would her past cause her to not step up and take the lead?
Well, because she's talking about that when she did step up, when she's having that battle with Kanan, the kind of fight where he's finally getting her to release all this blocked emotion that he talks about, which Freddie Prinze Jr. was awesome in that scene. Mm-hmm. They were all awesome. Everybody in this voice acting was awesome. But in that scene, she's specifically revealing that she had done things, made decisions to try to save her family from the Empire, and they just turned her away. They chose to stay in the Empire, and so she's without a family. So if you were to make those decisions, and I feel this is very much setting up for Luke, is that you make decisions and things happen, and you still feel like, well, maybe that didn't work out. So we know now with the way The Force Awakens came out and the way stories have come out, they won at Return of the Jedi. They defeated, that was the start of the end of the war. But for Luke, the war didn't end. And so I could see him having this victory, which wasn't really a victory. He found his dad and his dad died and feeling very isolated. So if you look at Sabine, again, this person who made choices, fought the Empire, and is now isolated, where did they end up doing? Did they end up not wanting to lead? Is there a reason that Luke stepped away? Was he afraid to step into the fight again after that? Why is he disappeared? Why is every time something happens with Ezra, when Sabine knows about the Empire, she knows about military protocol, she would always defer to him. But I feel like they were setting this up. And we actually, our interview with Tia Sircar, the actress from Star Wars Weekends, what is that, 2014? She said that Dave Filoni had told her about the character's backstory. So she was working on this. I went back and listened to that episode. I'm like, oh my gosh, like the things that you know now that she knew then, and wow, awesome. So she had to play that, right? She had to play that very locked down person. He had to tell her why she. And there was a lot of criticism of the character for being locked down.
Right. And that's hard to do as a voice acting to play that. I mean, as a voice actor, you probably just want to be as expressive as you can. So to kind of play the opposite of that would be really hard. And we'll hear a little bit about more voice acting in our interview coming up with Verona Blue. But before we do that, you have this interesting note here on convorees and the Bendu. So I want to hear what your thoughts on this.
Well, did you see the little convorees come in? And
you know what? I didn't. What? Wait, was that is that when she went off to do her soul searching? And
no, there's a wide shot of the training. They come in and they settle down. There's one there and then and then I think she kicks Bendu when she does her little in her right before Ezra talks to her, and then we see Bendu. I think that's Bendu that she actually kicked. So he's he doesn't reveal himself to her, but he's there, and I think that's very interesting. And also when she has the confrontation with Kanan when he's training and he knocks her down, her shoulder gauntlet that's up is the one with the convoree that she has made since Ahsoka died. And we've talked about that previously. There's a lot of tie-in that Dave Filoni's actually done the art, and we see those characters are somehow related to the Force. And if people want to speculate, you could go out there and type convorees and see other things. I'm not going to say anything else, because you could see speculation. So I think they're very important to the story, but also they're named after Dave Filoni's wife. So, we see some, and he went in that little statement that he did in season 2. He mentioned specifically that he had listened to feedback from his wife.
Oh, wow.
She's an independent lady.
Yes, I love that Dave Filoni has someone who's got his back and that he's put her in the Rebels. I think that's amazing.
That's awesome.
So is there anything else in this episode that stood out to you?
Just that it was awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I really loved it. And now after hearing you say that, I have to watch again because I vaguely remember the convoyees, but now I really want to see them again. So
yeah, they just come in. They do those beautiful wide shots, that just, it's right in there, just sweeps in. You just see it for a second. My eye went straight to it. I was like, oh, that's it.
Oh, I love that. All right. Well, I think it is time to get into, we'll learn a little more about voice acting and our interview with Verona Blue. This episode, we are excited to welcome actress Verona Blue. She has done voice acting work in video games, film, and TV, but most notably for us, she is the voice of the first female Stormtrooper in The Force Awakens and the PA system on Scarif at the end of Rogue One. So, without further ado, let's welcome Verona. Hey, Verona!
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me today.
We are excited to have you on Fangirls Going Rogue, and I know I've met you because you're in liningup.net.
Yes, I line up for Star Wars, and I'm also in Star Wars. It's a full circle of dedication to Star Wars.
Well, we love that, and I know whenever I've seen you, you're always rocking a blue dreadlocked pony hawk.
Yeah, my blue dread hawk.
Yes. Is that what you call it? Is that the official name?
It's what I call it. I don't know if it's not the most popular hairstyle in the world anymore, so I don't really know what it's called, but I call it a dreadhawk.
Well, I want to know one particular thing. Has there ever been a time when your hair has not been that awesome shade of blue?
When I went to theater school, I did grow my mohawk out and go back to a more natural color. So when I went to theater school, I started auditioning for theater schools. And at that point, I started growing my mohawk out and then went back to my natural blonde hair color. And then when I got into theater school and then moved there, I just had a very easy to maintain, a terribly boring brown bob. And then as soon as I graduated from theater school, I shaved it off again and dyed it back to blue. So there was a little blip in the middle there where I did not look like me. And then the rest of it's always been this silly blue mohawk thing.
Well, we can always tell when you're in the room.
Do you do it yourself, the blue, or do you have somebody do it?
I dye my hair myself, but my dreads are done by somebody else. So I don't do my own dreadlock anything. But I dye and bleach my roots and all of that.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, here at Fangirls Going Rogue, we always like to ask a couple questions of everyone. Just gets us on an even playing field. So first question is, how has the Disney sale changed your fandom?
Wow. So I feel like now as a fan, not only, of course, are they hugely popular films, like the highest grossing films of all time, but they are in the mainstream and with a fresh new light. And there's a whole new generation of people who are learning to love them and the new characters. So for me, it just makes me proud again, I think, to be a Star Wars fan. And I'm excited to talk about Star Wars again. And I think I'd kind of fallen off that wagon for a while, or I was burnt out about it.
When did you first get into Star Wars fandom?
This is weird. My earliest Star Wars memory is actually the Ewok movie. But it gets more confusing because my memory specifically is wondering why Han Solo has two really small blonde kids. So Han Solo's not in that movie. So I knew who Han Solo was, but obviously I did not have the individual white man recognition system set up in my brain yet to know that they weren't the same person. Uh-huh. So I had a history of Han Solo and was very confused by the fact that he and these Ewoks were all together with these children. So a very long time. I mean, I must have been that memory must be from when I'm about 4 or 5 years old. So I've been a Star Wars fan for a long time. And then when I was in high school, I think it like really took off because I started reading a lot of science fiction and a lot of fantasy and just was into all of the things that Star Wars kind of gets lumped in with as far as media and entertainment. Right. So that's when I became like a huge Star Wars fan.
What are some of the other genre stuff that you like, that you enjoyed as a kid and even growing up?
Well, my favorite book ever is Ender's Game, which I know is very popular now with a lot of people. But Ender's Game, and I used to read and still do a ton of Golden Age of sci-fi books like Heinlein and Asimov and those kinds of things. So I'm not really into board games or tabletop games too much. I used to play some D&D when I was in high school. But for the most part, it's like reading and then now a lot of just films and TV. I like Firefly. I love Galaxy Quest and the Fifth Element.
Those are all awesome ones.
I don't like Doctor Who. I have tried. I just like can't get into it. I like the Next Generation Star Trek, but I'm not really into the original and then anything after. But I do like Babylon 5. Like it's this weird, weird all over the place.
We have to ask, do you like Harry Potter?
I do like Harry Potter. I do like Harry Potter, but I didn't read, what's the most recent one?
No, me either.
The Curious
Child. The Cursed.
No, I started reading that one, and then I couldn't really get into it. I do have it, but I always change the name of this. Is just why I can't remember it, because every time I say it, I purposely make it something else. So it's always like funny animals and what to feed them. I don't know what it's actually called.
Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
That's the one. So every time I name that, I call it something different. So it'll be like fuzzy cats and where to pur them and how to pet them. I just can't every single time. So anyway,
I love it. I want to see those movies.
Right. So I actually went to go see the movie, but I haven't read the book, and I thought the movie was just terrible and boring.
Me too.
And I know some people who are huge fans of the book who really enjoyed it, but I don't know how much they were filling in.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I really like Harry Potter. And actually, the first Harry Potter movie is one of those movies that if I'm just sitting around my house and I'm like working or doing laundry or something, and I just want something on in the background that is really easy, I'll put on the first Harry Potter movie a lot of the time.
Nice. You said your fandom sounds a lot like mine because I'm into the Next Generation Star Trek. Like Captain Picard is my captain. And the rest I've tried, but it just doesn't have the same sticking power and things.
Yeah.
So I feel you. But
awesome.
We do have our second question, and that is, if your house was on fire, what Star Wars item would you run back in to save?
I can only get one.
Well, you can be dangerous and go for 2 or 3.
Okay.
It's a test to see how bold you are, too.
Yeah, there you go. Just know you may suffocate first.
Right, fair enough. Die for the stuff. So a couple years ago, when I moved, I used to live in London because I went to theater school in England. And when I moved back from England to North America, I had all my stuff in storage. And I actually got rid of a lot of my smaller collectibles. Like I got rid of a lot of action figures. I used to have my living room was just like shelves and shelves and shelves of like battle scenes that I had put up of like stormtroopers like in battle and like whole ridiculous dioramas basically.
That's
and
awesome.
I got rid of a lot of that stuff because it was just too much to move around, but I kept all the big things. So my house now has like a lot of artwork and then bigger collectibles. And I would say that if I was running back in, I have an original, like early 80s Millennium Falcon, the big toy, with the like the, little antenna and like the little cockpit things that open. I would probably grab that. And I also have this huge painting that I bought from this Floridian-based artist who has if I remember the name of his art company, I will name it. But I bought this huge Boba Fett painting, and it's like Boba Fett's helmet up close, but it's only half of it. So it almost looks a little abstract, but like when you actually look at it, you realize what it is. I would probably grab that as well. It's hanging above my fireplace. and it's just really big and just like is like a statement artwork thing, and I just love it. So I would probably grab the Millennium Falcon and the Boba Fett thing. Oh, and I have a lunchbox, a Return of the Jedi lunchbox that has on the inside. I have autographs from almost every main character that was in Return of the Jedi. I'm only missing the big ones, so I don't have Carrie, Mark, Harrison, George. Yeah, I think those are the ones that I'm missing. But I have like everybody else, so I'd probably grab that too. Did I die?
Your hands are definitely full. But I know if Richard, Sarah's husband, was around, he would help you with the Millennium Falcon, I'm sure.
Really?
Yeah,
course.
he would come in and help you with that one. He might keep running with it, but
Cool. As long as it makes it out.
Yeah, as long as it's alive in the world to fly another day.
Right.
Yeah, well, in the Force Awakens, it goes through fire and everything. So
Right?
so
it's doable.
Yeah, it's fine.
And Return of the Jedi, too. It almost gets blown up in the Death Star.
Exactly.
And it crash lands in snow. The thing is indestructible.
Yeah.
Now I said that. I'm going to regret it, maybe.
Don't say that. Well, okay, so Verona, I met you through liningup.net, and we saw both The Force Awakens and Rogue One for the first time. And then, after seeing The Force Awakens with you in that awesome theater, I was flabbergasted to find out later that you were the voice of the first female Stormtrooper. So,
Hooray!
I know. So, first of all, actually, before you tell us how that came about, can you tell us how you got into voice acting in general?
Sure. So I went to theater school in England at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, which is a little theater school in the southwest of England. Notable graduates are Daniel Day-Lewis, Patrick Stewart. The school was started by Laurence Olivier. So it's sort of one of the top little tiny conservatory schools in England. And I did my master's in classical theater there. So I have a really strong theater acting base. And that comes in very handy for voice acting because conservatory training acting does a lot of voice training and breath training and movement. And it's not necessarily about making funny voices, but about being able to actually control how your voice sounds and how loud it can get, because if you're thinking you're doing Shakespeare in a giant outdoor theater, you have to be able to make sure everybody can hear you. So although we do some, let me start that again. Although we do radio training, because it's a very British thing, radio plays, while we're there, those skills are really easily applied to voice acting. So when I moved to Los Angeles and started doing more specific on-camera acting and training for more contemporary media, I suppose, voice just was a very natural, easy thing for me to fall into, because my voice is quite strong and authoritative and very distinct for a woman. And I look funny. So on camera is way more specific than how I sound. I can be anybody on voice, but as we said, I have a blue dreadlock mohawk, so my options are a little tighter when you put a camera in front of me.
But wouldn't it be cool if a stormtrooper whipped off their helmet and they had that?
And it was and I was Aura Singh as a stormtrooper.
That would be awesome. You do look like Aura Singh. You totally are.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Whoa. So can you do an English accent as well?
I can do an English accent. The first thing you do when you go to theatre school in England is they get rid of whatever accent you already have, for me, which was Canadian, and then they teach you to speak like you're British.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I totally bought that.
Is there a term for the very proper?
Yeah, so it's called RP, which is received pronunciation, and that is very specifically the way they talk on the BBC. And then that's considered the most kind of neutral English accent, where everything is very specific and clean and evenly. There's no weird lilt. And then from there, you start branching out to more London and South London and Cockney and East London and Scottish and Irish and Northern and wherever.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that was actually a big deal when people were speculating about The Force Awakens way before it happened, was that Daisy Ridley was being trained and received pronunciation,
right.
and that John Boyega was being taught an American accent. So,
right.
So you hear people talk about it. It isn't like important maybe what how the characters speak, but I've heard Sam Witwer do different things where he does the different voices and the accents and how easy it is to change it and out of them. So
Sam Witwer does that in casual conversation as well. It's worth mentioning. I've hung out with him a few times. And first of all, if you ever spend time with him just casually, be prepared for several hours of director's commentary on whatever thing you're watching. And then he does, like, he's so good at and strong with voices that he just illustrates and like punctuates conversation by doing impressions of people instead of telling a story about them. So obviously it's more notable when he's doing famous people like George Lucas or somebody that you know, but he doesn't say George said blah, blah, blah. He does George Lucas's voice. It's amazing.
Wow.
But you couldn't be talking about anything. Yeah, he's like very dedicated to it. He's awesome. It's hilarious and awesome.
Now, have you done any of the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels? Any acting on those?
No, I've been working on that. In fact, I went to the Rogue One Lucasfilm after party after the premiere, and both Matt Wood and Giacchino were a little bit drunk, and they grabbed Dave Filoni and like placed him in front of me and just started shouting at him that he should put me in Rebels.
Aww.
One on either side. We're like, this is Verona. She's great. She was a stormtrooper. And he's like, I know who she is. We've met. I know. And they're like, she should be in Rebels. Put her in Rebels. It was great. Then I went on Twitter the next day and just reminded him of the conversation just to like put a point on it. But so far, weirdly, he hasn't called.
What?
I know. I would really love to be in Rebels, even just as a stormtrooper. I would love to be in Rebels. I would love to.
Well, okay, so I know you're talking about your English accent. Now, in Rogue One, that PA system, isn't it vaguely have an English accent?
Yeah. So she's like, it's called transatlantic when it's that accent that like Carrie Fisher does when she's talking to Darth Vader at the beginning of A New Hope. It's that like kind of English, but like not quite. And like Natalie Portman did it in the trailer for The Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm.
So like it comes and goes, but it's this like, it's like an over enunciated neutral American accent that has a musicality to it, like RP does. So RP has a very specific musical shape. Da 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 is that what they teach you? That's how English people talk. Da 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 da. And transatlantic has that sort of lilt to it, but not quite as strong as an accent. So it was antenna aligned. So it's like a very, like kind of English, but not fully committed situation.
It's like you're straddling the continents.
Yeah.
But that antenna is aligned, damn it.
It is. It is. I saved the galaxy, you guys. Just I don't want to brag, but it wasn't for me.
Nice.
She wouldn't have known it went. So I mean, I'm vital.
It's true.
So when you went in to do these, like, do they have lines for you, or because I know sometimes they're going in and improving. I heard David Collins talk about some of the lines where stormtroopers improving. Did you have specific lines when you went in? Were you with other people?
All of my like key lines, so the stormtrooper as well as the announcements on the resistance base in The Force Awakens and the antenna on Scarif were all scripted. Okay. But when we do what's called a loop group, which is the ADR session where we all go in together and fill in like the alien noises and the background noises, most of that is unscripted, but they do double up. So, like General Radis and all the stormtrooper, General Radis was scripted, but then also all the stormtrooper stuff that like David Collins does with Sam Witwer in Rogue One. It's basically just the two of them. Like all of the stormtroopers are just the two of them. Most of that they made up on the fly. So it's sort of a weird mix because there are certain things they have to hit either because you can see the person's mouth moving and it's not clean audio. So you're redubbing some random character in the film, or for plot advancement, they've been provided with some kind of dialogue that they have like 6 people record, and then the sound editors just choose the one that fits the best.
So I had a question about the female stormtrooper in The Force Awakens. Was
Sure.
that just you recording that, or did that get recorded by different people as well as male people?
When we did The Force Awakens as the loop group, so when all 20 people were together, only men recorded stormtrooper lines. But then, oh, my dogs are having a battle in the background. But then when they started doing the edit, the people at Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams included, noted that it made no sense that Captain Phasma was the only stormtrooper that had moved up the ranks, and there had to be other women under the helmets. So they decided they needed to record another woman as a stormtrooper, or a single woman as a stormtrooper, and I was the only one who did it. So Matt Wood contacted me directly and asked me if I could come back into Fox, and I recorded about 6 pages of dialogue. And that covered stormtroopers and officers and pilots and all kinds of crazy stuff. But the stormtrooper is really the only one that like stuck out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you be, if you could be anything, stormtrooper, pilot, anything in Star Wars, what would you be if you could be something?
Like if they were like, you can pick your own part in the next Star Wars movie.
Yes.
I would probably either want to be Aura Singh in like a bounty hunter movie.
Nice.
Or a Sith of some kind.
So you're dark side.
Oh, totally. 100%.
So you need to talk to our other co-host, Teresa, who couldn't make it today.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we're the light siders and she's the dark sider. She keeps us in balance.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm totally dark side for sure. Long live the Empire.
So as far as a Star Wars fan, because you're both a voice actress that has worked in Star Wars and as a fan, what would you like to see from Star Wars in the movies and in the animation going forward? And you're also a book reader, so I don't know if you've read any Star Wars books, but if you have.
I have not read the Star Wars books. That is a time commitment that I don't think I have. But that's an interesting question. It's kind of an idea that I've wrestled with for a while. And interestingly enough, I kind of had this conversation with Sam Witwer recently, because we were talking about who Rey's parents may be.
Oh,
and not to like...
Who are Rey's parents? Is that...
Yeah,
okay.
and not to dive like too deeply into that rabbit hole. Part of me likes the idea that the numbered Star Wars episodes, 1 through 9, are specifically the Skywalker family story. And so everybody who's like a key figure in that way, in that lineage, is a Skywalker. But also the part of me that really likes science fiction books likes the idea of larger universes, and that there are like all of these kids all over the galaxy that have these latent Jedi, like Force sensitive powers, but they are not in the right circumstances to have them brought out. Sort of like X-Men kids, like sort of like the mutant kids in the films where sometimes they get sent away, but other times like they're just basically given like Adderall or whatever to like deal with it. So
if your power sucks.
Right. So I'm kind of torn about like knowing every little thing about Skywalkers, and then also knowing these like little side stories about like how the Force has influenced families and communities that we've never seen before, because I think the Star Wars universe goes on indefinitely in all directions, and any character, like any type of character, can exist in this universe. And I think there's a lot of really amazing writers and creative thinkers who like have stories in them that are amazing, and I want to see those stories. I'll be honest, I'm not super interested in the Han Solo movie. I kind of like not knowing.
You already know that Han Solo has 2 blonde kids, so,
Right. But like I'm not that interested in the like nitty gritty about why he became a mercenary and a space pirate. Like it's I just accept that he is, and that's enough for me. Same thing with like Boba Fett. Mm-hmm. We kind of know his backstory already, and I don't think everything between him being like 12 and then whatever 35 is necessarily that interesting.
I'm with you on Boba Fett, but Han Solo is my favorite character, so I'm ready to see that movie.
I love him. I just don't care what he was like when he was 17. Like he was probably a douche, like every 17-year-old boy. So I just don't care. I do want to see way more women characters. I'd love to know about like Mon Mothma.
Yes.
Like what? How did she's like the leader of the rebellion somehow. How did that happen? That's interesting to me.
That is a good idea. My goodness.
Right? I know.
Yeah, because I think part of the fun of Boba Fett is he's a little mysterious, and yeah, we see him as a kid. So to see anything in between the various times we see him is like, okay. But Mon Mothma we virtually know nothing about. Huh.
Right.
What about you, Tricia? Have you thought of any? Well, you like the handmaidens, don't you?
I want handmaidens, and I do want more Mon Mothma. I really thought we would see more in Rogue One because it was this is kind of the big move of the Rebel Alliance, and she ended up the leader. So I'm like, she must have made a big bold move. And obviously they were telling their story, but that was the character. And actually, recent books have done the best with Mon Mothma. Just these great, brilliant little, not overarching moments, but little character moments that you could really enjoy. So I do hope to see more of the Lady in White, because we're supposed to see her more in the prequel trilogies, and then she got cut. Most of that got cut too. Yeah. So all that, all that stuff. So it'd be fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I have a question about the ADR session for Rogue. Well, actually comparing, because you were in the ADR session for both The Force Awakens and Rogue One, right?
Yeah.
So comparatively, were there like more women in one over the other, or was it kind of the same? Like, can you give us an idea about that?
In the Force Awakens loop group, it was about 50-50, roughly. There's about 20 people and roughly 10 women, roughly 10 men. In Rogue One, I think there was like 30 people and there was only 8 women, and all of the rest of them were men.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, if you count the women in Rogue One, there's like 6 of them, including me, in the whole movie, including my voice. In the whole movie, there's only like 6 women. So yeah, there was like not very many women invited to do the ADR for that, unfortunately.
So one of the things that we like to do is specifically, I read a lot from Gina Davis, and she talks about for representation, if you can be it, you can see it. So just getting out there. That's why we like to have women on our show, to show that, other women coming up, young girls could say, oh, I could do voice acting. I could be in a Star Wars movie and not necessarily be the star, but I could be one of the characters and get all these opportunities to go to conventions. What advice would you give? And it probably could be advice for boys too, but for girls that wanted to get into doing this voice acting, like obviously you've gone to training, but advice about that and just other ways of networking and meeting people.
So the most important thing, if you want to do, whether it's voice acting or on-camera acting or motion capture even, is you have to be a solid actor, because all of your performance skills are rooted in that acting ability. And that is something that takes training. Children sometimes have a very natural ability because they don't have a lot of fear of being embarrassed. So they're more free. But even as they get older, they tend to need training because you start to be more self-aware. And so people shut themselves down inadvertently. So if you're interested in voice acting, or like I said, motion capture or on-camera acting or theater acting, or doing audiobooks, going and starting some drama classes, taking drama in high school or in middle school if you have that option, going to like a summer camp that has drama or musical theater, and just really immersing yourself in learning about your body, how it moves, how you breathe, how you sound, because these are all muscles that grow with training. When you go to theater school, if you go to a conservatory program, whether it is in a university, whether it's Juilliard, whether it's one of, RADA in England, you spend a lot of time laying on the ground breathing because all of the muscles between your ribs, which are called intercostal muscles, they have to become really strong if you're performing Shakespeare on stage for 3 or 4 hours a night, because your lungs need to be able to hold more air. And so your whole body becomes this instrument, and you use your whole body to project sound and to resonate out of your head and out of your chest. So voice acting in particular really takes a specific kind of control and stamina for your voice. You could spend 6 to 8 hours in a booth talking, and that is very hard on your vocal cords if you don't know how to support your voice and your breath properly. So I always say, start with a foundation class or like a high school drama class or a summer class or even an improv class to just get your feet wet and get an idea if it's something you're comfortable doing or you want to explore, because sometimes the idea of something is not as is a lot more fun and a lot easier than actually doing the thing.
You guys aren't just sitting in a booth goofing off.
No, I mean, it's fun. It is fun. And if you have a passion for it, like it is really exciting, but it can be exhausting, and you can really wreck your voice, and you can, really hurt yourself if you don't support yourself and take care of yourself when you're doing it. And then at the same time, if you are kind of working on that a little bit, or you have some training and now you want to break into voice acting, it is tough. Voice acting, I would say, is more competitive than on-camera acting because it is not location specific. So if you want to be in TV and films, you probably have to be in Los Angeles to be able to audition and then show up to actually film. But to do voice, you can be anywhere because you just need to have access to a booth or a booth in your own home to record the audition. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter if you have disabilities, if you have mobility problems, if you're in a wheelchair. It doesn't matter your skin tone or your complexion. Like, all of these things are become irrelevant. So your headshot isn't what gets you in the room for voice acting. So on one hand, it does open the door to a lot more diverse types of people who may be struggling more to get in the room for like an on-camera casting session, but there's so many more people out there that are competing. So it's a lot harder to get an audition for like a high-profile voice gig if you don't already have really strong representation. There's a ton of resources online. There's several high-profile voice actors who have websites, like D. Bradley Baker has a website called iwannabeavoiceactor.com. And there's another guy who has a site called, I think it's vo2gogo.com. And they all have intro courses about how to be a voice actor and what to expect. And they can teach you about audiobooks and how that works and all the different sites where you can post your reel for free and how to make a reel and where to take classes and how to develop character voices. So it's a lot of hustle. All kinds of acting, whether it's on camera or it's voice or anything else, it's like 80% of work is not you showing up on set and learning lines. It's you getting your name out there and learning skills and practicing and just trying to let people know you exist. It's pretty stressful. It's like not very glamorous being an actor, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
So we know you've obviously done other things beyond Star Wars. Where else can people find you that's not Star Wars that they would recognize?
So I'm going to be on season, I think it's 3 of Bosch this season, which is an Amazon Studios television show. It starts in April. So I'm a recurring character. I think I'm in 4 episodes of that show.
How do you spell that?
Bosch, like Hieronymus, BOSCH.
Okay.
It's like a LA film noir type of cop show. It's really great. The main cast are incredible and the writers are incredible as well. The show, it's a really high quality show, and there's 2 seasons you can binge right now before the 3rd season starts. So I'm going to be on that. I had a teeny tiny part in a movie coming out called Magic Camp, which is actually a Disney movie. I think it comes out this summer. It's a Mark Waters film. He did Mean Girls and Freaky Friday.
Ooh,
so
nice.
I have like a teeny tiny part in that film. Hopefully it doesn't end up on the cutting room floor. And I did a sci-fi film for Sci-Fi Channel. I think we filmed it like 2 years ago now. I've seen it. I don't know if it's scheduled to go live yet, but it stars Corin Nemec, that a lot of people know from Supernatural or Stargate, or most famously Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Yep.
And he's the lead in that, and I play like a very Harley Quinn-ish villain, Mad Maxy villain in that. So that should be out soon. So other things that have already been on TV, I've had a couple spots on like Shameless and the show Mom and a show called Married. I've kind of been around little things here and there.
Well,
I can't say any of the voice stuff that I've done because it's all like super private. Yeah.
You never know. Well, where can people find you if they want to get a hold of you on social media?
So I shout a lot about representation and Republicans on my Twitter, which is at Bathory. It's B as in Bob, ATHORI. And I have my website that has my reel and my resume and some of the films and TV work that I've done at veronablue.com. And I have an Instagram where I post a lot of pictures of my dogs, who are little chihuahuas, and also adventures that I have. I try to post as much like on set and fandom stuff as I can when I'm allowed to at Bathory with an I.
We'll post it all too, so people can find the links in the show notes.
Definitely. Yeah. And most importantly, Verona, will I see you for the line for Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi?
Of course, I will be in line for Star Wars. Wait, we need to get this out of the way.
Okay.
I camped out in Canada. So I'm from Canada originally. I camped out for Episode 1 for 2 weeks.
Wow.
So I was like, in our group, I think I was like number 6 in line.
Wow.
And then I did a week for Episode 2 and a week for Episode 3, also in Canada. So I have like a long history of camping outs for Star Wars.
At least it was summer.
Right? Like way before I like ever had the opportunity to actually work on a Star Wars film. I'm one of the first, I think, like 100 members of the 501st. I joined in 99. Like I am deep in Star Wars fandom, so I'm absolutely gonna be at Episode 8, and then I will be at the Han Solo movie, obviously, because I'm gonna see it, and then I'll be at Episode 9. Hopefully, one of these films will give me another part.
Woo-hoo.
We'll see how that goes. I've been told that Episode 8 has more women than Rogue One.
Oh.
So fingers crossed for that. I don't know anything else about it. And even if I did, I couldn't tell you, but I don't. But I do know that it supposedly, I've been told it has more women characters. So I think we're going to see more and more representation of all kinds of people now that Disney has taken over, because they really do have a strong mandate for representation on the books for all of their casting, for all of their projects. And they really are trying to diversify as much as possible. So I think we're going to like grow the fan base to so many more people now. It's going to be awesome.
Any possibility you'll be at Celebration?
I'm not going to Celebration this year. I might be going to a con, like a tiny con in Philadelphia around the same time. I've been invited. I'm not really sure the details yet. I don't even know what it's called, but it's in April.
Well, you know what? Thank you so much for joining us today, and I can't wait to see you in line for Episode 8. And
me too. I'm so excited.
I know. Every year now. Every year. Oh.
Yeah. Every year until long after we're all dead.
Right? That's the promise.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, you guys. It's really fun.
Shout it out to the social media from Teresa and Tricia and Sarah. Shout it out, fangirl shout outs.
Oh man, I love that shout out bumper. So big thank you to Rob Dellinger for creating that jingle. He is amazing. And we want to give a big shout out to everyone on social media. So let's see, Chris Shepard of Go Mouse Scouts. This is a podcast. He was looking around on iTunes, and I guess he found us on the front page of iTunes. Can you believe that?
No, I kind of freaked out when he shared that. So thank you, Chris, for sharing that. I think he knows that because I kind of freaked out. I'm like, can I share this? Because this is really awesome.
I know. It's amazing. Yeah. iTunes has decided to put Star Wars podcast as one of the categories on the front page. And we were like, number 3 right there? It was amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you, Chris. And also on Twitter, we were tweeting during watching Trials of the Darksaber, and I happened to tweet about the fact that I got that Harry Potter Deathly Hallows story vibe with the opening Darksaber story in this episode, as we talked about. Tricia, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about.
None.
But at Dr. Joy P on Twitter chimed in on wands and sabers and all of that. She said, I agree. Immediately thought of the Tale of the Three Brothers animation. Again, Tricia, you have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm going to keep teasing you. All right. And also Heather Hunt chimed in on this thread. So, and Teresa, of course, was chiming in as well. So we love live tweeting. Like, I've been trying to do this more often while Star Wars Rebels is on, and getting Richard to tweet as well. Have you seen some of his tweets?
He has.
Yeah.
He's tweeted? He tweeted? Oh, Richard, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, you can follow him. He is at Sith Rich. So he tweets at least live Star Wars Rebels watches. And some other things, but we're starting in baby steps, right? Baby steps. So we had this fun discussion on wands versus lightsabers, and this kind of prompted a segment on Skywalking Through Neverland, episode 155, which just came out this past week. And we had Teresa Delgado on, and we talked about wands versus lightsabers, the Darksaber lore versus wand lore. It was a really awesome discussion. If you are a Harry Potter fan, head on over there after you finish this episode and listen to that, because you will geek out with us. It's really fun.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm going to go listen. I won't understand what you're talking about, but it'll be great. And I say this in the nicest way. I put you guys on because there's some nights when I have bad insomnia and I fall asleep. And that's not to say you guys bore me. It's because you make me happy. And that erases the stressful day. So by the end, I'm like, I have only happy thoughts in my head, and it's all good.
Oh, so sweet dreams.
I look forward to that. Yes, sweet. It always ends with sweet dreams. So, and I usually am like, what did I not remember them talking about? So I'll go back and finish it the next day. But shout outs also to for our last character discussion, we talked about Jin, and there wasn't as much love as maybe. So yeah. So, but we love that people respond with their love for a character. So Stephen from Roku Depot, and if you guys are not following Stephen on Roku Depot, you should, because he listens to every podcast, I think literally every podcast, and does a write-up on it. And we appreciate his feedback. But he wrote his Love to Jin email, which we really appreciate. It reminds us that there are people who did love her, and we wanted to make sure that we gave that shout out to people. So I just want to share some of his thoughts. So it's not all of his email, because he wrote us a long email. Of all the characters in the film, Jin was the one I connected with most. I liked how she was willing to step in and lead when no one else was stepping up. You see this at the rebel base on Yavin when everyone is bickering. She didn't have to step forward, but she did. She took the initiative and made a case for going after the Death Star plans, standing toe-to-toe with generals and senators. And I agree very much on that part, Stephen. So appreciate that. And I want to read one other part, because this is more of his love. Jin was also not one to shy away from getting her hands dirty. When they're getting ready to head to Jeddah, she makes sure she has a weapon. When the battle starts there, she holds her own. In every location, she enters the fray all the way until the final battle. And when Krennic is lying wounded, she goes to finish the job, stopped only by Cassian, who acts out of his own guilt at the things he's done. But the thing is, he's not sparing Jin from the guilt of murdering someone. She served with Saw. She was one of his best soldiers. The novelization even makes it clear that she shot people from a distance with a sniper rifle before.
Wow.
And yeah, so I've actually gotten a lot of feedback, including from Fangirls reviewer Kay, that the novelization is definitely a way to fall more in love with Jin. Oh. So I have not read the novelization yet. A lot of praise. Also, Ross Brown talked about it, and Linda did an interview with Alexander Freed. So I am going to check out the novel, but I've heard a lot of feedback that helps you get more in tune with the characters in this book.
Oh, that's great. And we have it sitting right here, and I, again, have not picked it up. So I think that's a good impetus to do that. Well, we want to thank you for Stephen. That was a great email. We love all your emails, you guys. So if you want to send us email, contact@fangirlsgoingrogue.com. And now, roll it, Rob Dellinger.
Sidious, Anakin, Luke and Leia, Qui-Gon Jinn, C.O. Bibble, Kylo Ren, Salacious, Crumb, Bib Fortuna, Boba Fett, Amidala, Wicket, R2-D2, BB-8, I can barely keep it straight. It's a character discussion. It's the Fangirls on character. It's a character discussion.
All right. So obviously neither of us will have read the book to know more about Baze and Chirrut, but we're going to talk about Baze and Chirrut.
Yes. Now. And that's because I wanted to talk about not just one character, but the relationship between characters. So, Tricia, do you think that Baze and Chirrut are a couple?
I think that you could read whatever you want to read into it from these characters. And I actually, a lot of people want things to be really stamped out and clear. But I believe that if that's what you wanted to see, you could definitely see a couple relationship in them. If you didn't want to see it, you didn't have to. Now, is that a good thing? Or some people would really like them to go hard sell. And I just didn't think it was going to happen with these two characters for a lot of reasons. One of them being the Chinese market. That's like a no-no to go there. So they had to kind of keep it back and not be overt about anything. But I definitely think there's implications there that there could have been some type of love. But what do you think?
Honestly, when I first saw it, it never really occurred to me that they would be. But I mean, upon further inspection and what people have said, I think there definitely could be. But I believe I'm with you in that it didn't really need to be said. A lot of times the best things, especially on camera, are left unsaid or unseen. Like The King and I. Have you seen this film in a while?
Yes, a few times. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So The King and I, when they're doing their famous dancing scene, and they're dancing around the room, and this is the king and then Princess Anna, and not princess, but Anna, and they're dancing with their hands clasped together, right? And so they're dancing around, and then he stops them. He goes,
"But it's not right. We're not holding two hands like this. Was like this."
Then he puts his hand out
now
to reach her waist.
Yes.
Come.
And like draws her close, and it's like just the sexiest thing you have ever seen on camera. And there's no kiss, there's no making love, there's no nothing. It's just that chemistry that's, you don't have to see it. You just know it's there. So I think that could be related a little bit to this, in that, the death scene where they're looking into each other's eyes and you're like, oh no, what's going to happen? So if, like you said, if you want to read that into their relationship, you totally could right there.
Oh, that was like my favorite. A lot of people think, people ship somebody so they want to see a lot of romance. I wrote a lot of what you would call ship fanfic. And there's a lot of words, more words than some professional authors have written. And most of the time there was not any of anything. It was all about the relationship as far as interacting. And so a lot of times they were not, the characters weren't even together. It was about them being apart and being separated. So what I really liked about Baze and Chirrut was there's definitely an implication of love of some sort. Right. So it depends on how it depends on how you relate to love as significant. If you think that like romantic love or physical interaction love, or if you just think that like brotherhood love, whatever you want as a person, you could certainly read into those characters. They are my favorite characters in the whole movie, just because, well, Chirrut is able to see the truth in people. You see that yes. he can see what Cassian's going to do, and he relates that to Jin. There's a dark aura around him. When Jin comes back to after her father dies, she goes to move her hand like she's going to do something physically, and he stops her. So this is he reads people and understands who they are, and he also understands who Baze is, and Baze is obviously wounded in a big way. I think that's, he's the big hulking. He's supposed to be the berserker. This is what I love about him. He's supposed to be like the berserker character in a D&D game, or, the muscle in the heist, or the muscle in the war movie that has the big machine gun. But he's probably the most wounded character that we see. And that, I feel that he's something, what does he say? You were the most
dedicated, of the wills of the, and
of
then
the Guardians.
Yeah, of the Guardians. He was the most dedicated one of us all, is what he says.
Right. So you would have to think that he was dedicated to protecting this temple. He was loyal. He must have believed in what he was doing, but he was just sticking. It felt like he was just sticking around because of Chirrut. That he needed an attachment, and that's one of the things for anybody, for any human being alone. I mean, I know you do most of the stuff you do with Richard. Yes. When we've hung out, it's been about being friends, friends. That's why we do the show. So it's about having attachment, not feeling lonely for a lot of people. And he just kind of stuck by Chirrut's side. And maybe I feel like Chirrut stayed and Baze stayed with him because Chirrut stayed, because that's how I read the relationship with them, and however that is. But I don't know. What else do you think about that?
Well, so Baze is loyal to Chirrut now, not necessarily to the Wills. So what I think would be really cool is some kind of backstory to Baze. I mean, I can imagine that maybe they both joined up with the Wills together at the same time and became really great friends. And then something happened, and there's a story there to turn Baze's head. And so he wasn't dedicated anymore, but then he just decided to stay for Chirrut. So,
apparently there is a book coming out about the two of them. So
that's right. Is that on Disney
Publishing? Yeah. So we will get to learn more. I don't know how much we'll get out, what people want and what they don't get is two other things. Now, did you think, because there's been a lot of debate and people have said, do you think that Chirrut was force sensitive, or do you think he was just a very skilled warrior?
I mean, I think he has to be to some degree. I think his midichlorians were a little more elevated than some other people's, so that, I mean, he could sense the Kyber crystal, or maybe either he's a little force sensitive, or he's just worked in and near Kyber crystals for so long that he can sense them. But sensing Jin's Kyber crystal necklace wasn't the only thing he could do. He just would put his trust in the Force and say that chant, and, no bullets could touch him. So I do believe he did have some kind of relationship with the Force. What do you think?
Well, actually, in the novel Catalyst, there's a little bit with Jin's mom that we see that if you're really quiet, you could maybe experience the Force if you were, maybe meditating and aware, not necessarily in the way a Jedi can experience the Force. So we also, we don't get a lot of it with the Jedi because it's pretty boring to watch how much they train. But I mean, we actually say that in the Star Wars Rebels episode, they still kind of condensed it to make it, to make it all happen. What Sabine was actually going to learn to fight with a blade. But you can train yourself to be very good at something, to be very quick and very, very effective as a warrior, especially if you're looking at it from the way Eastern philosophy-based cultures perceive, they like the martial arts movies and that kind of stuff. That's a lot about discipline and training. So I think there's a lot of discipline and training in Chirrut, but I don't necessarily think that we are learning that everybody can access the Force. It's just that some people, Sith, Jedi, whatever they are, can access it in a way bigger way.
Right.
So he definitely is. He's doing something, but who's Force sensitive? I think that they're moving more and more to the philosophy that anybody can sense the Force if they quiet their mind and listen to it. Can you throw things around like Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi? Probably not.
Right.
But we hear stories about, mothers picking up cars off their kids and stuff like that. So if Chirrut's looking for that one moment where but then again, there's he walks and doesn't get shot when he's doing his little prayer, and he walks through, 3PO and R2-D2 apparently said that prayer when they walked across the hallway in A New Hope too. Or just the Stormtroopers are really bad shots, the ones that are left. So
they just can't see through those helmets.
That was the crazy thing about Chirrut. He did this amazing intro where we just see him beat down on people. Mm-hmm. And then when he does his big thing that he has to do, it's about doing nothing. He just hopes and prays that he's going to make it across. It's an interesting way to make a storytelling point. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I really like that. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I think I would have liked him to do more. But that's what it is. So he has all this training and discipline, and it was left to him just having hope and faith that it would go his way, which maybe that's sometimes what you have to do.
Right. And then, also one thing they're exploring in the Star Wars universe is that the Force is not just being able to throw rocks around, it's not just metaphysical, but it's being able to kind of commune with animals like Ezra does, or be a healer.
Yes.
So it's not just, there's so much more to the Force that can be explored. And I love that we are exploring that as we go. Even, kyber crystals, they are almost somewhat sentient as well. So, and we talk a little bit about that in the wand lore versus the kyber crystals stuff. So, episode 155, Skywalking Through Neverland.
That's one of my favorite moments is when he says he's going to follow Jyn because her path is clear.
Oh, yeah.
Then Baze is like, yeah, I guess I'm going to go with you.
And then eventually Jyn is swallowed up by white light. So I guess her path was clear.
They all got to be one with the Force.
It's true. Oh.
If you go back and watch the movie and look at all the things they're saying and all the K2SO talking about the odds, and I'm like, K2SO is like, he's being really pessimistic, but he's being so darn truthful. It's kind of scary.
They're high.
The odds are
they're very high.
The odds are too great. It's like they're telling you the whole time, the odds are too great. The odds are too great. We're telling you the odds are too great, people. Just so you know, the odds are too great. They're not going to make it through. I hope I didn't spoil the movie for anybody.
I hope not. Statute of limitations on a Star Wars podcast is like the week after, people. Right?
Yep.
Well, speaking of Star Wars podcasts.
Yes.
There are podcast awards.
We won, Best Ensemble last year.
Yes, Best Ensemble Cast, which was amazing.
Yes. And we're certainly hope that we'll be back up there. Right now it's open to nominations. By the time you hear this, hopefully we will be on a list of some type that you love us for something. So if you're out there and you see it, go and support your favorite podcast. Just getting people's names in these type of things, just getting your podcast name up for an award is a huge accomplishment. It's a way for other people to find other podcasts and to recognize them. So
it's a way to celebrate the podcasting community.
Agreed. And so it was fun to sit down and think of my favorite ones. And I know I don't listen nearly to as many as you do, and certainly not as many as Steven does for Roku Depot. So
that's very
I'm sure he had thoughts. So support that podcast awards however you can would be a really awesome thing for the whole podcasting community, because we truly are a family.
Definitely. And you know what? You can head to StarWarsPodcastAwards.com to go submit your nominations or vote if the voting is up by the time you hear this. So thank you, everyone, for your support. Vote for your favorite podcasts. And you know what? Help celebrate this community, this wild west of podcasting. I love it.
Absolutely.
So with that, I think it's time to end our show. All right, you guys. So you can visit us over at fangirlsgoingrogue.com, and we are at FG Going Rogue on Twitter. Tricia, you are at Fangirl Cantina. Teresa is at Ice Cold Penguin, and I am at Jedi Tink.
Email contact@fangirlsgoingrogue.com. Facebook, Fangirls Going Rogue. Just type it in, and then if you want to join our face group,
let's call it our face group.
If you want to join our Facebook group,
I'm typing it in here.
Right.
I'm sorry, it's sticking.
If you want to join our Facebook group, otherwise known as our face group, you can just go and request to join it. Type it in. We would love to have you. It's only good times in there. We try. And then also Tumblr, fangirlsgoingrogue.tumblr.com.
And on Instagram, we are at FG Going Rogue, and Sandra keeps us. It's really awesome over there. She's got some great posts there. And if you want to leave us a voicemail, we are 331-21-EWOKS.
So please go to iTunes and leave us a positive 5-star review, because we need your reviews. They are the thing that puts us on the front page so we can go fangirl flail when we see us on Facebook. So please leave us a positive review anywhere on any of the podcaster things that you listen to us.
Anywhere we are. And everyone, until next time. Da 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 da. Yup.
Yup. You sound great.
Are you sure? I don't believe you ever since that time.
No, there's no hissing. Promise me.
Ready? Okay.
I'm so proud of you for doing that. I'm turning you into a cheerleader.
I am so against the whole cheerleader thing when I was a band nerd. Of course.
I was a band nerd who converted to dance team girl.
What? I can't be friends with you.
Well, there was a legitimate reason. Band lowered my GPA.
Oh, interesting.
And not because I was bad at it, but because you could only get a 4.0.
But the dance team didn't?
It didn't have credits.
Huh. And the Disney store sent me oh my gosh, I can't speak.
Welcome to episode 41. Did I say that right? Is it 41?
Yeah, it is. You got it right.
This is going in the bloopers.
Shout outs. Oops, that's mine. That's Skywalking shout outs. Whoops.
You throw me off cow.